Hi sweeties! For today's video, we're going to talk about the Administering, Analyzing, and Improving test. At the end of this chapter, you would be able to define the basic concepts regarding item analysis, identify the steps in improving test items, solve difficulty index and discrimination index, identify the level of difficulty of an item, perform item analysis properly and correctly, identify the item to be rejected, revise, or retain, and most of all, interpret the results of item analysis. One of the most important functions of a teacher is to assess the performance of the students. This is a very complicated task because you will consider many activities such as the timing of the assessment process, the format of the assessment tools, and the duration of the assessment procedures. After designing the assessment tools, package the test, administer the test to the students, check the test paper score, and then record them. You need to return the test paper and then give feedback to the students regarding the result of the test. Let's proceed to packaging and reproducing test item. Assuming that you have already assembled the test, you write the instructional objectives, prepare the table of specification, and write the test item that match with the instructional objective. The next thing to do is to package the test and reproduce it as discussed in the previous chapter. First, you need to put the items with the same format together. For example, if you want to use the multiple choice format, you need to put the items together with the multiple choice format. But if you're using the Google Forms, there is a tendency that if you click the shuffle the items, then it would shuffle, and as you can see, hindi na susunod yung format. Minsan, nauuna yung multiple choice, then susunod ID yung true or false format. But if you're using the paper and pencil tools, you need to put the items with the same format together. Next, arrange the test item from easy to difficult. Wag kayong magbibigay ng mga pa-exam na kung saan nauuna muna yung mga mahihirap na question. For example, solving or even essay questions. Or not unless if ang question mo lang is all about essay. Give proper spacing for each item for easy reading. Sometimes the reason why the students got a low score because of this reason. The options in the same page. Place the illustration near the options. Check the answer key. Check the direction of the test. Provide the space for name, date, and score. Proofread the test and reproduce the test. Next is reproduce the test. Administering the examination. After constructing the test and putting them in order, the next step is to administer the test to the students. The administration procedures greatly affect the performance of the students in the test. Test administration does not simply mean giving the test question to the students and collecting test papers after the given time. We have here the guidelines in administering the test before, during, and after the test. First, guideline before administering examination, you need to try to introduce positive test-taking attitude. Inform the students about the purpose of the test. Give oral direction as early as possible before distributing the test. Give test-taking hints about guessing, skipping, and the like are strictly prohibited. You need to inform the students about the length of time allowed for the test. If possible, write on the board the time in which they must be finished with answering the test. Give the students a warning before the end of the time limit. Next, tell the students how to signal or call your attention if they have a question. So you can tell them that they can raise their hand if they have any question. They can have a peace sign if they want to go to CR or other signal that can call your attention. Next, tell the students what to do with their papers when they are done answering the test, or how papers are to be collected. You can tell them that if they're done, they can submit it on your desk and then they can go. Tell the students what to do when they are done with the test, particularly if they are go on to another activity. Also, write this direction on the chalk and refer to them. Rotate the method of distributing papers so you don't always start from left. Make sure the room is well lit and has a comfortable temperature. Remind students to put their names on their papers. If the test has more than one page, have each student check to see that all pages are there. After finishing the guidelines before administering examination, let's proceed to the guidelines during the examination. First, don't avoid talking while examination is going on to minimize interruption and distraction. Because sometimes, the student doesn't want any distraction or noise while they are having their examination. Kaya nga binibigay na natin yung instruction before the examination so that we will not distract our students. Next, avoid giving hint. Next, monitor to check the student progress and discourage cheating. Kaya nga kung minsan may pawansit apart tayo para ma-minimize or walang mag-cheat sa kanilang exam. Next, give time warnings if students are not pacing their work appropriately. Make a note of any question student asks during the test so that items can be revised for future use. Test papers must be collected uniformly to save time and to avoid test papers to be misplaced. Next, we have also guidelines after the examination. So after the examination, the next activity that the teacher need to do is to score the test paper, record the result of examination, return the test papers, and last, to discuss the test item in class so that you can analyze and improve the test item for future use. First guideline is to grade the papers. You can add comments if you can, do the test analysis, or see the module and the test analysis after scoring and before returning papers to students if at all possible. Next, if you are recording grades or scores, record them in pencil in your class record before returning the papers. If there are errors, adjustment in grading, they are easier to change when recorded in pencil. Next, return papers in a timely manner. And lastly, discuss test items with the students. So if students have questions, agree to look over their papers again, as well as the paper of others who have the same question. It is usually better not to agree to make changes in grades on the spur of the moment while discussing the test with the students, but to give yourself time to consider what action you want to take. Let's proceed to analyzing the test. After administering and scoring the test, the teacher should also analyze the quality of each item in the test. Through this, you can identify the item that is good, item that needs improvement, or items to be removed from the test. One of the purpose of item analysis is to improve the quality of the assessment tools. Through this process, we can identify the item that is to be retained, revised, or rejected, and also the content of the lesson that is mastered or not. We have here two kinds of item analysis: the quantitative item analysis and the qualitative item analysis by Kubizin and Borich, 2007. So item analysis is a process of examining the student response to individual item in the test. It consists of different procedures for assessing the quality of the test items given to the students. Through the use of item analysis, we can identify which of the given are good and effective test items. So good items are to be retained and defective items are to be improved, to be revised, or to be rejected. We have here the uses of item analysis. First, item analysis data provide a basis for efficient class discussion of the test results. Next, item analysis data provide a basis for remedial work. Item analysis data provide a basis for general improvement of classroom instruction. Item analysis data provide a basis for increased skills in task construction. Item analysis procedures provide a basis for constructing test bank. Let's proceed to types of quantitative item analysis. There are three common types of quantitative item analysis which provide teachers with three different types of information about individual test item. These are difficulty index, discrimination index, and response option analysis. Let's proceed to difficulty index. Difficulty index refers to the proportion of the number of students in the upper and lower groups who answered an item correctly. The larger the proportion, the more students who have learned the subject is measured by the item. To compute the difficulty index of an item, we use this formula. DF is equal to small letter n all over capital letter N, where DF means difficulty index, the small letter n, number of the students selecting item correctly in the upper group and in the lower group, and the capital letter N is the total number of students who answered the test. Next, let's proceed to level of difficulty. To determine the level of difficulty of an item, find first the difficulty index using the formula and identify the level of difficulty using the range given below. So we have here the index range and the difficulty level. From 0.00 to 0.20, that will fall in very difficult level. 0.21 to 0.40 is in the difficult level. 0.41 to 0.60, the average or the moderately difficult level. 0.61 to 0.80, the easy level. And 0.81 to 1 is the very easy level. The higher the value of the index of difficulty, the easier the item is. Hence, more students get the correct answer and more students mastered the content measured by that item. Next, let's proceed to discrimination in the power of the item to discriminate the students between those who scored high and those who scored low in the overall test. In other words, it is the power of the item to discriminate the students who know the lesson and those who do not know the lesson. Discrimination index also refers to the number of the students in the upper group who got an item correctly minus the number of students in the lower group who got an item correctly. Then, we will divide the difference by either the number of the students in the upper group or number of students in the lower group, or get the higher number if they are not equal. Discrimination index is the basis of measuring the validity of an item. This index can be interpreted as an indication of the extent to which overall knowledge of the content area or mastery of the skills is related to the response of an item. We have here the types of discrimination index. Actually, we have three kinds of discrimination index. First, the positive discrimination, the negative discrimination, and lastly, the zero discrimination. So let's talk about the positive discrimination. It happens when more students in the upper group get the item correctly than those students in the lower group. The negative discrimination occurs when more students in the lower group get the item correctly than the students in the upper group, while the zero discrimination happens when a number of students in the upper group and lower group who answered the test correctly are equal. So you cannot measure or you cannot distinguish the students who perform in the overall test and the students whose performance are very poor. Next, let's proceed to the level of discrimination. According to Abel and Frisbee 1986, as cited by Hetzel 1997, recommended the use of level discrimination of item for easier interpretation. And also, we have here the index range and the discrimination level. So from 0.19 and below, that is the poor item, or it should be eliminated or need to be revised. If the computed discrimination index is from 0.20 to 0.29, that would fall into the marginal item or need some revision. Next, from 0.40 to 0.39, reasonably good item but possibly for improvement. And from 0.40 and above, that is very good item. So you can retain that item. We also have a formula in computing the discrimination index. So we have here the DI is equal to CUG minus the CLG, then divided by D, where the DI is means discrimination index value, the CUG is the number of the students selecting the correct answer in the upper group, and the CLG is the number of the students selecting the correct answer in the lower group. And D stands for the number of students in either the lower group or upper group. So take note, you must consider the higher number in case the size in upper and lower group are not equal. So we have here the steps in solving difficulty index and discrimination index. First, you need to arrange the scores from highest to lowest. Separate the scores into upper group and lower group. Count the number of those who choose the alternatives in the upper and lower group for each item and record the information using these templates. So you can have these three columns, the options, the upper group, and the lower group. So you need to put asterisk for the correct answer. Next, compute the value of the difficulty index and the discrimination index, and also the analysis of each response in the destructors. Make an analysis for each item. We also have a checklist for discrimination index. It is very important to determine whether the test item will be retained, revised, or rejected. Using the discrimination index, we can identify the non-performing question items. Just always remember that they seldom indicate what is the problem. Use the given checklist below. So first question is, does the key discriminate positively? So the response would be yes or no. Then next, does the incorrect options discriminate negatively? So if the answer to question 1 and 2 are both yes, so you can retain the item. If the answer to question 1 and 2 are either yes or no, you need to revise the item. Then if the answer to question 1 and 2 are both no, you need to eliminate or reject the item. And lastly, we have here the analysis of response option or the ARO. So aside from identifying the difficulty index and discrimination index, another way to evaluate the performance of the entire test item is through the analysis of the response options. It's very important to examine the performance of each option in a multiple choice item. Through this, you can determine whether the destructors or incorrect options are effective or attractive to those who do not know the correct answer. The attractiveness of the incorrect option is determined when more students in the lower group than in the upper group choose it. Analyzing the incorrect options allow the teacher to improve the test item so that it can be used again in the future. We have here the Destructor analysis. First, the Destructor. So when we talk about Destructor, it is the term used for the incorrect options in the multiple choice type of test, while the correct answer represents the key. So it is very important for the test writer to know if the destructors are effective or good destructors. So using quantitative item analysis, we can determine if the options are good or if the destructors are effective. So another destructor analysis is the miskeyed item. Next is guessing item. Next is the ambiguous. Next is the miskeyed item. So the test item is a potential miskey if there are more students from the upper group who choose the incorrect options than the key or the correct answer. Next is the guessing item. So students from the upper group have equal spread of choices among the given alternatives. So students from the upper group guess their answer because of the following reason. The content of the test is not discussed in the class or in the text. The test item is very difficult or the question is trivial. And lastly, we have here the ambiguous item. So this happens when more students from the upper group choose equally an incorrect option and the key answer. So we're done in the quantitative item analysis. See you in the part 2, sweeties. Thank you!